Today, I wanted to talk about the story of the empty room. So, there's this kind of loneliness that nobody wants to talk about, and I feel like a lot of us Christians can relate to this, or even non Christians. So, the kind where your phone is full, your calendar is full of schedules, of appointments. Your mind is always full, it's always racing, but your soul feels completely empty. And the scary part is most people don't notice it until the silence finally catch up to them. And all this time they feel the void in their hearts that they just choose to ignore. So this is the parable of a man who spent his whole life surrounded by noise, only to discover that he was starving his spirit most of the time. So every morning, same routine, same story. Before his day even started, his alarm goes off. He would check his phone, check notifications, messages, scroll on social media, check emails and work. All of these things, all of these distractions have already entered his mind and became his first thing to go to rather than God. So all of these worldly things have already touched him before he even set his foot on the ground. So his mind already belonged to the world at that point. He was constantly connected with the world, constantly distracted, and because everyone else was doing it, it felt normal to him. And most of the time, a lot of us are actually guilty of this as well. So he laughed online, laughed at videos, checking social media, talked to people online. But when the room became quiet one night, something inside him felt painfully empty. It's like he was longing for something. And he was avoiding the silence at all costs. So to fill that up, he would distract himself with entertainment, with social media, with music. So he would have music in the background, watching movies in bed before going to sleep, or even passing out in bed while scrolling through the phone. So anything to keep his mind and his thoughts from getting too loud. And the strange thing was, he didn't deny God. Like, he believed in God. He still believed in God. He would even go to church, post Bible verses online, and still pray and go to church. And he would even still call himself Christian. But slowly, God became something or someone that is just a second thought, something or someone that is just taking a back seat or of a second opinion. And his prayer becomes shorter, his conviction became quieter. And instead of pursuing God, he pursued his own glory, his own validation. So the Bible stayed closed longer, and more distraction came to him, came to his mind and his heart. And he became less sensitive to the voice of God. And not because he hated God, but because his spirit was no longer hungry for the word of God, because of all that constant noise that he was putting himself into. And then one night, everything's changed. When he came home, um, there was no notifications, no emails, no messages, no calls, no nothing, just silence. And he sat there on his sofa in silence. And he realized how exhausted he really was. Not physically, but spiritually. Because entertainment has been numbing him. He was using it as an scapegoat to face his loneliness, this emptiness that he feels in his heart. And the noise was just covering him with that. And suddenly, all the things that he was avoiding came rushing in: fear, loneliness, regret, longing for some connection, and most, most importantly, that guilt that he felt because he lost connection with the Lord. Something else was there too: the conviction, a quiet realization that God has not abandoned him. He had simply stopped listening to him. And maybe that's what's happening to a lot of people today. We blame God for we feel like God is being silent and not answering us or becoming distant to us. But we are not listening to Him because we are filling ourselves with all these distractions, all this useless rubbish that is blocking God's voice. And whilst we're drowning ourselves in distractions loud enough to silence Him, we ask why we feel empty. And we keep feeding ourselves with this rubbish instead of the truth, instead of the Word of God. And we want peace, but we avoid surrender. We want to know our purpose, but we disobey God. So being close to God without disconnecting from the world long enough to hear Him is difficult, because you cannot be close to God whilst constantly being disconnected. So through prayer, we can connect ourselves back to the Lord, because that is the most important way of communicating to the Lord. And slowly, the man became aware of what's going on with him spiritually. So he started to pray more. So that was the first step that he did. He prayed more to the Lord and asked for forgiveness, and he wanted to connect back to Him. So another way that the Lord will be able to hear you and will listen to you if you surrender yourself to Him completely. So Jesus often spoke in parables, because through stories, that's when the people get captured, and that is a way that people would understand it and really reflect on it through stories. And here's the truth: not everything distracting you is evil. Many times, things distracting you are just keeping you spiritually asleep. And sometimes God allows silence because silence exposes the noise that was hiding in you. Maybe the emptiness you feel or you felt isn't random. Maybe your soul is calling you back to Him. So tonight, before you get distracted again with your phone, with social media, work, or just life in general, sit in silence and pray again to the Lord. Open the Bible and read His Word again. And that way, you'll be able to hear His voice, and when you do, please listen to Him, because the voice of God often is heard most clearly when the noise finally stops.